the chairman of the Houston Housing Authority, Mr. Jody Proler, to say a few words. Thank you, Jody.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jody Proler, chairman of the Houston Housing Authority Board, and thank you for joining us today. We're here to provide to you an update on the point at Bio Bend and to outline the next steps as this agency moves forward. First, on behalf of the board, I want to thank Mayor Whitmire for his leadership. His efforts have been critical in strengthening governance at the Houston Housing Authority and in restoring public trust. We very much appreciate his commitment to ensuring this agency remains focused on serving residents and the Houston community. I also want to recognize our leadership team. Jamie Bryan, who joined the agency nearly a year ago. This team stepped into a challenging environment and has brought discipline, care, and a strong commitment to doing things the right way. Lastly, let me please thank my fellow board members for their service and their dedication to good governance. I'd ask those members who are present, please, to stand and be recognized. At this time, it's my privilege and honor to introduce the man that embodies "Let's get to work," Mayor John Whitmire.
Thank you, Director Proler. Chairman, let me stay on schedule, but let me take sufficient time to thank so many stakeholders, leadership team that makes this day possible. It started when I ran for mayor. This was a campaign issue. I knew many of these operators and supporters that put this together. I knew them. I'd watched them for years. It never passed the smell test. And I want to thank the press and everyone that said, wait a minute, it doesn't pass the smell test, because it didn't pass my smell test. But those people are no longer involved. This is something that, quite frankly, Houston inherited. My administration, I inherited. One of the first things I did was replace the entire housing authority. Conflicts of interest were obvious. Who should lead this new board? Jody Proler has impeccable integrity, experience. He left the authority over, he didn't like the smell test. He left it largely over this facility. Thank you for your courage, leadership, Jody. And I know you and your board are doing the right thing. You know, I could be at City Hall. I could avoid the whole issue. But I ran for mayor to fix Houston. As mayor, I could be at 100 places this morning. But I needed to be here, but more importantly, I wanted to be here. Because ultimately, I know I'm going to be held responsible, and that's the way it should be. To those that have already told me, don't move children into Middle Street. They're across the street. Look at the facts. Their parents making $18,000, $20,000 a year as a housekeeper at the Hilton were making $14 an hour until I got involved in the strike. They're making 20 now, they'll make 23 before the contract's up. I just emphasize, put a face on what we're doing this morning. This is not about developers, it's not about politics, it's not about making press look like they're doing jobs. This is about a mother working more than one job, making $18,000, $20,000, and her children are going to have programs, educational, health care, mental health caseworkers. Why wouldn't I want to be here to take credit for the leadership team? And I'm so pleased that the housing chair of City Council, Councilor Thomas, is here. She's looked at the standards that are being met. The district councilor, Castillo. I could go across this audience. The planning director is here, Von Tran. Public Works is here, the director. This is the priority and the guarantee that we're doing this right. HPD has a captain here this morning. Hey, country, thank you, Captain, for being here. She loves Second Ward. She's making a difference, and public safety will be a priority at this site. Now, I understand the concerns of the neighbors. They've never seen or heard someone like me before. But I want everyone to know we're doing it right. The board is doing it right. And to the neighbors that have never seen or heard someone like before, I will give you a guarantee, because I know you're concerned about infrastructure, safety. To the neighbors, I understand your anxiety, but I will give you my pledge that we're not going to build another affordable housing project in this site, the property owned by the authority. We won't build anything on it for the next 6 years. I can guarantee that. So today, I want to thank Commissioners Court, Buffalo Bayou Partnership. They're doing trails that'll be a part of this complex. Commissioner Garcia's building a bridge over to East Riverside. We're on a roll. Mike Nichols, thank you for heading up the housing department. For you to come back out of retirement, where you successfully led our homeless coalition and take on an assignment of a department as important as housing, is why we're being so successful. So, last but certainly not least, HUD, our partner. Ms. Quiones, we're so honored that you come here, the regional director of HUD, representing the secretary of HUD, Secretary Turner, who I served with in the legislature. Let me emphasize again, relationships matter. Working across the aisle gets things done. There's a time for politics another day, another time, but today we're talking about people that will soon be occupying this. And I know many of you that grew up in public housing are probably saying, wow, didn't have anything like this. So anyway, I'm darn pleased to be here. I've left off some individuals that need to be recognized, but each and every one of us, each and every one that can hear my voice, is a public servant. And I think someday we're going to be judged. What did you do with your public service? And those that are helping us meet the standards for residences here, you're meeting your calling. Thank you again to the board. Jamie, we're so darn lucky to have you to leave a successful development career. You have impeccable integrity. You're a man of faith. And I'd heard such good things about you before I met you, and I've not been disappointed one day in this board and the gentleman they hired. Let's go to work.
Wow. It's tough to follow. But thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Jody said, we thank you for your leadership. Thank you for setting a good example of what good governance looks like in our city. Thank you for holding this agency accountable over the years and putting the right people into place. As you mentioned, and as we talked early on in my appointment, as I'm coming up on about a year here, we inherited this. But that doesn't change the fact that we're responsible for it, right? And we have to go through and do the right things. And neither one of us was going to allow people to move into this if we had not been convinced of the science. We're going to listen to the facts, not the noise, and make our decisions. And so I stand here today proud of the work that has been done, knowing the decisions we make here today are rooted in the science, grounded in the mission of us serving those in our communities, and grounded in integrity. And I can say that with the utmost confidence. Thank you to everybody who came out today, and especially our friends and supporters at HUD. We can't do what we do without you and your support. For those of you who may not know, HUD invests hundreds of millions of dollars into the city of Houston every single year, and they are the backbone behind a lot of the work. Most of the work the Housing Authority does, Mike's group does, Public Works and other things. And so thank you again, Ashley, for being here and your team, and thank you to the Secretary. You know, when I was appointed to this position, this was one of the very first things the board brought up. They said, well, Jamie, if you take this job, what are you going to do about 800 Middle? And I told Jody, I said, well, I have no idea. But we're going to diligently look into it. We're going to take fresh eyes and a fresh approach on it. And so was there a path forward? Was it viable? Was there a way to not put people in harm's way and at risk? And I did not have an answer to that a year ago. And so we have done the due diligence. We have worked with the environmental experts. We have seen the science. And I'm happy to say, as of about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we received full clearance from TCEQ, the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality, who is the governing agency for environmental issues in the state of Texas, that this site that we sit under for the point at Bayou Bend meets the highest standards for residential land use. Let me repeat that, the highest standards for residential land use. And so I am trusting in the science. I am trusting in the facts. To be clear, there were issues on this site. Houston has an industrial past. Not everything in this city is clean and pretty. But that doesn't mean that there are not viable paths forward. That is the work that we do in real estate, in government, in civil service, is to find ways to move forward and do so in a responsible way. And so that was the same case. And so we're not denying the fact that there were issues with sites. I mean, the city operated an incinerator site 60 years ago next door. But that is the nature of Houston. But I do want to be clear, and I want to make it super clear, that this site we sit on has never had ash or materials like that ever found on it, okay? There has been misconceptions about that. Yes, ash was found on a site next door that the Housing Authority also owns when a storm pipe was being installed out to the bayou a few years ago, which triggered a lot of this. It triggered the response from the mayor and TCEQ to say, stop. We better double check, be belt and suspenders on this. But we have worked with TCEQ to clear those issues, and we are continuing to work forward. As the mayor said, what next? What happens with the rest of the land the Housing Authority owns? As he mentioned, we have talked about it, and he has asked me to say, let's put a moratorium on that site. Let's make sure that and it's not about safety, it's about the neighborhood, it's about infrastructure, it's about congestion, to say, let's slow down, let's get this project open, let's work with the community. I've had conversations with the mayor and Councilmember Castillo and others in this community about what do we do next there. And we are dedicated to working with this community, being good neighbors, thinking about what else is needed in this. We have our Public Works and Planning Director here, and we will continue to be talking about how this neighborhood grows. I am not new to this. In my previous career that I left to come to this Housing Authority, I was part of the development team and one of the partners that kicked off East River, which is what is kicking off a lot of the economic redevelopment in this area. I sat on the Fifth Ward Redevelopment Authority board for 6 years. I know this area. I know what's going on here, and I understand that. And from that standpoint, while you hear words like gentrification and things like that that may be scary and may be bad, the economic investment in this area is real. It's exciting. We have new things coming, the bridge, the trail system, new retail, shops, all of that, which the East End has desperately wanted for years. And that's good. That's okay. But it can't be at the expense of our residents. It can't be at the expense of displacement of these families who have lived here, grown up here, raised their kids here. And so today, this project, 400 units, 400 affordable homes that might house up to 1,000 residents of Houstonian, all affordable. All affordable. This isn't a mixed income project. This is all affordable. And we are going to be maintaining that affordability in this area for decades to come. That is hugely important. Okay? And so, but last and not least, and this absolutely should be first, is why are we here? We are here because we are called to serve. We are here because we are called to serve our fellow neighbors. The Houston Housing Authority, with the support of the city and HUD, serves over 100,000 residents in the city of Houston. And we are here because, unfortunately, residents from Clayton Homes, which was just a few blocks down the way on the other side of Jensen, lost their homes several years ago when the highway department took their property. They were in the way of progress and expansion. Nobody's fault. Nobody's fault. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't the housing authority's fault or the city's fault, but they lost their homes. And this project was built with money that came out of that disposition from TxDOT as replacement housing to help these folks be able to stay in their community, have healthy conditions, be able to experience some of the economic investment and development, and be a part of the future of this neighborhood. Unfortunately, they've been displaced for several years, and it's time to welcome them home. Today, I would like to introduce a couple of folks, and you guys can just stand and be recognized. Miss Vanessa Bowles, Mr. Walter Garfield. Thank you both so much for your support. Thank you for your patience. I had the honor of touring them through this facility last week. Ms. Bowles and Mr. Garfield are some of our families and residents who unfortunately were displaced from Clayton Homes and have been waiting patiently to come home, come back to their community. We had a great time last week. We toured. We had a lot of laughs. You guys told me your stories, and this is what it's all about. These families that we are serving is what it's all about. They've grown up in this community, their families grew up in this community, and they're ready to come home. They're excited, and we're excited, because these residents from Clayton Homes, they get first choice to be here. And let me emphasize that word choice. I was asked yesterday, and it's a fair question, would you live here? I said, absolutely, unequivocally yes, I would live here with my family. And that should be the standard that my agency and the city sets for everything we do going forward. We should not be developing affordable housing and asking people to move into places that we ourselves would not live with our own families and kids. Unequivocally, yes, I would live here. I would be Miss Bowles and Mr. Garfield's neighbors. We'd have a great time on the weekends hanging out. And, but the reality is they still get a choice. Everybody gets a choice. I understand there will be skeptics that will never get comfortable with living in an old industrial area, and that's okay. That's their choice, right? But we're going to operate on facts, not noise. People get to make their own opinions and decisions, but look around. For the last 10 years, people have been making the choice to move into this neighborhood as new housing has gone up, townhomes and single-family homes and new apartment complexes. People have already been choosing to live in this neighborhood, knowing the atmosphere of it. And so the fact that Miss Bowles, Mr. Garfield get to come home, their friends and family get to come back home, experience this incredible, vibrant economy that's growing on the East End, this culturally rich neighborhood, super, super exciting. So I can't thank you enough. And before I turn it over to my friend Ashley, I want to give you guys something real quick. So just want to welcome you and tell you welcome home, and thank you. We look so forward to seeing you move in the weeks to come. And without further ado, I'd like to bring up our regional administrator for HUD. She represents Secretary Turner in the administration, oversees the Southwest Region 6 for us. They've been such a huge support, and they're making an investment in Houston. They've made Houston a priority, and I would like to welcome Ashley to the podium and to say a few words. Thank you, Ashley.
2 hard acts to follow. So I appreciate you putting me in this position, Jamie. But as Jamie mentioned, my name is Ashley Quinones, and I have the absolute honor of being your regional administrator for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So what that means is I was appointed by the president last year to represent a 5-state region, including my wonderful home state of Texas. And we get to work side by side with our HUD Secretary, Scott Turner. And so I bring greetings from both of them, from the administration, and I bring congratulations to all of you, specifically the residents that are going to make this home here in a few days. I've been particularly excited to come here today because my husband and I lived in the Houston area for 12 years up until 2022. And so Houston holds an incredibly special place in my heart. This is where we started my family, and I've worked alongside countless community organizations in various roles. So again, just really, truly, genuinely excited to be here to share in today's event. And then you fast forward to today, and Mayor, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to partner with you. Secretary Turner was here last year, and we had some great conversations around what that partnership can be and is becoming as we move forward over the next few years. And as Jamie mentioned, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has been a longtime partner with the City of Houston and with the Housing Authority specifically, even dating back to Clayton Homes. So we're talking decades of relationship, of partnership, of bringing affordable housing options to the folks of Houston. And I understand that some of you, like Jamie mentioned, lived in the Clayton Homes community. So welcome home, welcome to your new home, and we wish you all the best. And under Secretary Scott Turner's leadership, you won't find this surprising, but we are mission-minded. Everything that we do every single day is intentional, and it's focused on our mission. And I'm going to read our mission. Our mission at HUD is to foster strong communities by supporting access to quality, affordable housing, expanding the housing supply, and unlocking homeownership opportunities for the American people. We're not only committed to that mission, but we're also committed to furthering the promise of self-sufficiency in every American while promoting economic development, not only in urban areas, but also in our tribal and our rural areas throughout the country. And I mentioned that intentionality. We didn't coordinate this at all, but the rest of my remarks follow specifically the intentionality on focusing on residents, because at the heart of what HUD does is our residents. That is Secretary Turner's heart, that is my heart, that is everyone that serves in this HUD administration's heart. And Jamie, you hit the nail on the head in terms of why should anyone move into a community that I myself would not live in, that Secretary Turner would not live in, that Americans deserve the very best when it comes to affordable housing options. And so we are intentionally focused again on the residents, but a key piece of that is being intentionally focused on working with community partners like the city, like the Housing Authority, like our businesses, our faith-based groups, to really come alongside our residents and help them on a path to self-sufficiency. And you will hear a lot of that in terms of that term self-sufficiency as we move forward under Secretary Turner's leadership. And as Jamie mentioned, we have this beautiful new community, but the individuals that we're going to live here will be the community. And each of you, each person that will live here, their families, their children, each of them have been born with a God-given potential. And so you see, public housing, you see that intentionality, you see that God-given potential. And you've probably heard the Secretary say public housing is intended to be a trampoline, not a hammock. It's intended to be here, to be available for Americans when you need it the most. And so at HUD, we want to be your partner, again, working along the Housing Authority. We're working with housing authorities across not only my 5-state region, but across the country to support those various self-sufficiency programs, to ensure that residents have opportunities to skill up, to have access to education that they might not have otherwise had, to learn a trade, to be able to earn a good living and achieve the American dream of home ownership. Because at the end of the day, that is our goal at HUD, is to work with our Americans and come alongside them to do that. So again, on behalf of Secretary Turner, on behalf of the Trump administration, congratulate all of you. Congratulate you all, as well as your future neighbors. And most importantly, I just look forward to working with all of you in terms of to come around and be able to fully support those self-sufficiency programs to make this community thrive and all of Houston thrive. So thank you all very much.